No, you didn't do anything wrong.
Did you also change the YouTube link? Because I texted it out there, so I hope you didn't change the YouTube link.
Nope, still the same. And
all right, good.
We should be on Facebook. Does anyone see us on Facebook? Let me just make sure we're here. New technology, guys, and not as easy as you. Oh, there we are. Okay, good. Where'd you go, Kerry? Let me give a second and get Kerry back here real quick. How's everybody doing tonight? If you only knew how much this has been a thing here. I was on with Robert Steele earlier today, and right in the almost the 44 mark, it actually all my power went out in the house. I was like, are you kidding? So it stopped in the broadcast. Yes, hope you all voted too. So it stopped the broadcast, and basically he was left live sitting there, and I looked like I was there frozen, but wasn't doing anything. I'm just waiting on Kerry to get back here. Let me text her. Where'd she go? So there she goes. So that was fun. There we go. Okay. Yeah, I was just telling them. So I did a interview with Robert today, and at the 44 mark, my power went out in the whole house. And so so I'm frozen because for some reason it just stopped me frozen. And then he was talking, and he became the only person there eventually. And then he's just like, are you there? Are you there? So that was fun. But what happened is, because that happened, and it actually did something that burned out my camera. And I had like 3 more interviews that day. So I had to go get a new camera and hook that up and figure this out. And this is a way different camera. And so anyway, hi guys. My name is Dr. Sharnael Wolverton Sehon. I am with swiftfire.org True TV. And I'm super stoked because we have Kerry Cassidy from Project Camelot, and she's a return guest. We have interviewed each other a few times now. But I really wanted to get you back on, Kerry, right before the election, because you and I have talked a bit off camera, and there's a lot going on. So give us all the updates, and I'll give you mine, and let's just see how this goes.
Okay. Well, oh no, I have a echo. Okay, something's wrong. So let me close a couple windows here, because I don't know. Okay, hopefully I won't disappear when I do this.
Let's not let her disappear.
All right, so can you hear me now?
I can. You sound great.
Okay, excellent. Okay, so now the echo's gone, so that's good. Okay, hi everyone. Sorry for the confusion here. So tomorrow's the real election, but everyone is voting. At least where I am in California, we can vote since October 31st, which was Saturday. So I voted on Saturday. So I'm getting. It's like, I don't know, Grand Central here. I'm getting texts from people. I'm getting all kinds of stuff from people constantly. It's just like a rolling, sort of story. And I can say that, let me just say this, that from everyone I talk to thinks Trump's going to win. All right. So let me just get that out of the way. And it does look that way. Okay. Actually, to me as well. Although I didn't get what I was hoping to get, which was more of I get precogs usually about things. Now, I don't know why I'm not getting a clear precog about this particular situation. I actually did the last time he was elected, but I misinterpreted. Well, I didn't interpret it correctly. Let's put it that way, until after he won. But it was because, your brain talks to you in symbols and all this kind of thing. And in that case, I saw a bunch of, sad to say, illegal immigrants all packed up with their stuff headed south to cross the border and to, out of the country. And that was obviously me talking to myself saying that he was going to win. in that kind of code that anyone might have. But at any rate, yeah, it's a whole moving target. I mean, I know that there's also, I heard that there was going to be sort of a sort of run on the border again this time. I heard that, but I haven't heard that it actually happened.
It did.
Did it?
Yeah, that's what I had called you earlier. I don't know if you remember, David Rodriguez and I were on the phone, and he was saying all these buses are coming in, not just with like criminals, but with people seeking.
Oh, right. To actually vote.
Yep.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. And you were the one who said they did this in 2016 as well. And like, I mean, I guess was I sleeping then? I mean, I remember it was important, and I cried and I waited all night and everything else, but it just doesn't seem different this time. I mean, you've been through a few voting things. I definitely haven't been through a lot, just because I didn't care until the last few. But is this the most important election ever in the universe, or what?
It seems like it. Yeah, absolutely. Well, let me just say that I haven't voted for ages. I mean, years and years and years. I can't even remember. I think the last time I voted was when what's his name was running. But anyway,
what's his name?
Terminator.
Yeah. Oh, wow. Yeah.
But no, I just lost interest in the whole thing. And it was rigged anyway. I was getting all kinds of reports, even for the Trump thing was Hillary tried to steal it. And then I had a whistleblower who was part of a group that was put together to hack it back, basically, for Trump. And that is what they did. And then that whistleblower got killed. And I'm sure that the deep state killed him. So, I wasn't the only one who he gave that information to. And we, it was very legit. So now I've heard, of course, everyone might have heard that Mike Adams was reporting that the Dems were going to be interfering with the voting machines, at least in Pennsylvania. So I guess Pennsylvania is some really big deal, as maybe because of the electoral college. But I don't know for sure that's happening. I know it's being reported. Okay, so there's that element.
And did you hear, because I've just heard now too that they've actually have the National Guard set up in Texas, Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, I think Philly. They're looking to do DC. I don't remember. That was yesterday. Where exactly in those states, I don't know. And if there's been more that have been set up since then, do you know anything about that?
Not really. I can say that I guess the rumors are that all of that's happening. I mean, certainly Texas was having major, that was in photos and everything else. Also, DC getting locked down. So apparently they're trying. I got a report on DC, Washington DC getting locked down,
and the White House was getting locked down. Yeah,
well, that's what I'm saying is Washington DC, around the White House, all of it. They're going to try to block the entrances and all of that. So that does seem to be a threat. Now, whether they're going to carry it out, whether Trump and his military are going to allow that to happen, I don't know. There's even the thought as to whether or not, now I got to get, my dog has decided to play with her toy.
Yeah, well, right when that happened, my cat jumps up here too. Okay, so all the animals are super involved and engaged here. Why she's doing that? If you guys can please go to swiftfire.org, swiftfire.org, and then of course Project Camelot, and sign up for the newsletters, because of all this censoring and everything that's going on. I know that she's got a couple of strikes on her YouTube. I just got out of Facebook jail for the second time.
Okay, I'm back. So
get on I was just telling them to get on your newsletter, get on our newsletters, and for the censorship situation. But I'll get there later. Go ahead and finish what you were saying about them, DC and setting up in DC.
Right. So, well, I think people know, and it's out there. So whether any of this comes to pass, in these dire ways in which, I don't know, the military has to stop whatever they might come up with. And this is assuming that Trump wins. Now, if Trump doesn't win, there's still going to be issues. But by and large, I think the main issues are going to happen if Trump wins, as opposed to if Trump doesn't win, because the right is more or aligned with what are called patriots and the the whole militias. So the militias are organized, but they're under orders like from the military. So all of that is not going to happen unless they get called to kind of interfere in some form or fashion with something illegal going on. In theory, that's the theory on it. So I can just say that everyone has seen on YouTube the like the 96 miles of Arizona, the cars, so how many cars do you get in a mile? That was incredible. I was hearing reports this morning also of New York City that they were doing something, but I didn't actually see it. So maybe someone else in the chat or who's listening to this will know about that. Did you hear about New York?
No, but I mean, dude, the rallies and the amazing energy of Trump, my God, like going to 14 in like 2 days, not counting travel time. And he doesn't get there and do like a 10-minute speech. I mean, he's seriously connected, present, full of energy, endorsing, commenting, calling people out on the crowd, appreciating. I mean, and then off to the next thing. I traveled a little bit for 2 decades and most weekends. And sometimes we would have to go to even 2 states in a weekend. And I was just freaking, like, I would come home and I was like, oh my God, I need 4 days just to get over it. And I was in my 20s and 30s and 40s at that time, or late 20s. And I'm like, this guy's 74 years old. He's like Energizer Bunny. He's just like, he's got to be the Bionic Man for sure. I mean, Steve Austin ain't got nothing. Superman ain't got nothing. But, going back to what you were saying about New York, the rallies that you're even seeing on TV, I mean, one place I think said 58,000, another one 30,000, whatever. So, and yet the polls, what the hell? Like the polls are, and then more of it, people have voted earlier this year than any time in history, which I hope is for Trump, of course, out of my own belief system and perception and hope. And then yet too, after that last debate, did you know that the highest Google search was how to change your vote? Did you hear that? It's like technically prove it's all over. And I didn't know you could change your vote, but I
didn't think you could.
You can change your vote. If
that's completely bizarre.
Right. And not every single state allows it. And they're not super freely giving out that information, of course. But I put a chart on my Facebook page. If anyone would like to change their vote, my cat, if anyone needs to change their vote suddenly, and especially if it's for the right person, you can go to my Facebook and it'll show you what states will allow it and how easy it is to do it. It's actually really easy. I could not even believe it. But
okay.
That was the highest Google search.
How can you, well, okay, we're still before, tomorrow is vote in person kind of thing. So if you change your vote, I guess you would have to go in person.
You do. Right? You have to go in person, and almost everything that I read, and basically you tell them you're changing your vote. And there's a little bit more to it, but you can do it in person if you go, and whatever you may have done before, even if it was in person or a ballot, you can still go in by tomorrow and fix it.
Well, that's interesting. Yeah. Okay. Well, fair enough. And I guess everyone's going to be happy about that. So I don't know, exactly what you want to discuss. Obviously, things are really crazy. And we're hoping that, I did an update. I think you might have seen it. And I covered quite a bit of things. One thing that I did say that I know it's a bit off topic, but everything's, COVID related, right? So what I came up with recently is simply how afraid they are of healthy people. So think of it this way, that what they're locking up obviously is healthy people. And healthy people, when they get together, create a field of resonance and raise the frequency, because if they're healthy and you're in your power, everyone, it's like contagious in its own way. Through osmosis, we connect, and you boost somebody else's frequency. You raise their vibration. You could even think of it in just conventional terms, like if you're in a good mood, it's catching, and everyone else gets in a good mood. And then, if you're in a crowd, then pretty soon the whole crowd, and it can go the other way as well. So keep in mind, this is what they're trying to shut down, is how connected we are. So I just wanted to say to everyone, and I already posted it on Facebook and stuff, just hug your children, hug your friends, do the opposite of whatever they tell you to do. This is my opinion, whatever you want to do with it. I'm not trying to create a revolution necessarily.
I am.
But I will, I'm just saying in terms of disclaimer, so of course I'll try to put this on my YouTube, and it's going to cause
Science
trouble.
Miracles talks about how the biofields are transferable, and interesting. Yep. Someone just brought this up to me yesterday, Kerry. So the biofield is about 6 to 8 feet around, right? Mostly around 6 feet. And think about how we're supposed to be distancing 6 feet. So that would definitely go into with what you're saying. It's like, don't catch the positive, don't catch the good code, don't transfer anything positive, because
what they want is for you not to. But if you go contrary to that and understand and are in your power, understand that's how we can actually turn this thing around. So what I recommend is, in every juncture, in every possibility, connect, physically connect, psychically, in real time, just like we're doing here, a live broadcast, connect in person whenever you can, et cetera, doing the opposite again of what they ask. So the premise of everything is that they like to think that they give you rules and regulations because they want to save your life and make it better. But that's the opposite of the truth. They never want to save your life, and they never want to make it better. They always want to lock you down, and they always would like to see less of you survive than is happening. So if you go on the wrong premise, you don't understand what they're trying to say to you. You don't understand the language they're using. So right now they're locking England down again. That's the Illuminati. Now, I was told by, Charlie Freak and Charlie Ward and all these people are saying, oh, Trump went in, he's in control. And I even had Charlie Ward on my show, and I questioned him, and, because he said, oh, well, Boris Johnson is now under Trump's control. But Boris Johnson is actually operating right now, according to the Illuminati dictates, of shutting down England again. In other words, they aren't even going to be able to go out at all. They're supposed to stay in their houses totally, except for they can do takeaway, I guess. But you can't imagine how depressing this is for a country that already London, the streets, this guy did a video, are empty, right? And it's like this major thriving city. And so this is what they're doing. They're not doing it to save your life. They're doing it to take down your vibration mainly. Okay. Now, it's not really, in my opinion, a population reduction program, because it's not successful. And, Lord knows they have all the technology to basically to look into the future and to do it properly. So if they want to eliminate you, they would do a much better job. That's not what they're doing. what they're doing is they are lowering your frequency by separating you, and they are all about taking down the economy. So it's not so much you as the economy. Now, by reference, it's going to be you eventually. Okay, so as they do these dominoes, as if they carry them out. Now, Trump, in theory, is the one force. Meaning, when I say Trump, I'm talking about a huge Trump team. I'm talking about the military behind him and the worldwide support and the incredible support. Anybody who watches the rallies can see that he has a phenomenal amount of support out there. So when we talk about what he's doing, he's got people working for him around the clock, obviously. But I have to say, with Boris doing this step back, and France, same thing, Macron shutting down France and doing other draconian measures. These are Illuminati measures. These are not Trump measures. Okay. Trump measures are, as he's even said, he wants things open. He wants, people productive. And I'm sure that he wants people productive in England if he was in charge of England. So far, let me just say, that to all those people that say he's completely in control of Boris, no, I'm sorry. Now, maybe he's in control like for a few days and then they take control of the guy again. It could be going like back and forth because we're talking about mind control. We're talking about control mechanisms that even could involve things like scalar weapons and various other kind of threats to his family that come along and so on and so forth. So the dark side is not standing down yet. So for those of you out there who think you can just relax and it's all being taken care of, that is not the case. We can clearly see around the world that good is not prevailing yet.
Yes,
okay.
Yes. And let me piggyback on that a couple things, because when Charlie Freak came out and said all this stuff, it's very hopeful, no joke. And if it is true, oh my God, that would be amazing. And if this is just a big game that everybody is playing at this point and they're capitulating, awesome. And I hope that happens and we'll just see. And also, what scared me about it is it kind of made it sound like if it's in the bag, then we don't have to do anything because it's already done. And I feel like God is in action through people doing things. And so it kind of left out responsibility, the responsible part for me and others to just kind of like, hey, everybody, don't worry, don't do anything, don't even vote. I mean, he wasn't saying that, but I'm just saying,
right.
And he could be completely right. But I'm just saying that it scared me that people may be too relaxed and too thinking this is in the bag, that it didn't require any energy or action on their part to do anything forward, like standing up for what's true, living in authenticity, still, doing all the things like voting and, posting and speaking truth and whatever it is that you're required to do if you feel like that's in your heart. But going back to the isolation and the shutdown, I know you lived in England. I lived over there a couple times, went to school in the University of London. I mean, that place is a beautiful place, but it's also freaking dreary anyway. Whether you're inside or out, like no sunshine for months out of the year. And so to be shut down in addition to that, and of course you said isolation. I agree that the key for me of it's like to make you feel alone, to make you feel desperate, to make you feel like there's nobody out there. And on a psychic level, just the psychology of, being stuck in a house, it really, I have animals and I specifically have cats because I'm a foster mom. And I started thinking, God, after the second month, God, are my cats like depressed that they never go outside? Is that why they're always in the window? Because I would be like in the window going like, what's going on out there? Like a crazy cat person or something. So I get it. And it's made me have this whole different like appreciation for air and being outside and nature. And of course, we would go out a lot and we still do, but there's code in that. There's frequency in that. And to shut down from the connection of any nature is or the sun. There's code in all of those things.
Yeah. Absolutely. No
a
doubt.
huge booster, not only to your brain chemistry, serotonin, dopamine, whatever, but also your grounding and your beta, your waves on your brain from a doctor's point of view. And also, you want to talk about the phone calls and the consultations that I'm doing over the last 7 months. Most of them are involving high-level suicides. I've had 7 funerals this year since this happened, and 5 of them were just this month. And a couple of them were suicide, because people just are like, is this ever going to be over? And these are young people that are scared. And, some of them, domestic violence is up sky high. The suicide hotlines are up 600%, Kerry, 600%. And so people are doing drugs that they never did before. They're day drinking. They've lost their businesses, which has been their hope. And so, and thankfully not everyone has that outlook, but even the people getting deplatformed, I mean, this is,
I'm in that situation. I'm hanging by a thread right now on YouTube again. And so, I don't know, any day they could just delete my channel. Just, they go back in history and they look at other, videos you've done. If they see something they don't like, boom, they delete it. And in that case, I would have a 3rd strike and I'm dead. As it is, I have 2 strikes. And so I'm basically on as I've told people on my other broadcasts, I'm on my, what I call it, my alt YouTube channel, which has way less subscribers and way less people that get notified whenever I do anything. So way less viewers, the whole routine. So, and then I'm having to put everything on my website, because I have to put it on other platforms and then embed it in my website and so on and so forth. And of course, I've gone to subscription based for most of the longevity of my project. So
because it takes money to do all that. Like, I mean, before
just to stay alive.
And it takes money to hire people to help if you're not a techie person, which I'm not. Moving everything and setting up more space and more serving, whatever. I don't even know all the stuff. I just know, like, it's ended up costing more. And it's like, I'm not going to quit. I know you're not going to quit. When David Rodriguez got shut down with Laura Eisenhower on Friday, Laura, I was like, Laura, I told them both, get a new Facebook page, start over, just go with it. I will post it everywhere. We will get you back a million times. They're going to be so sorry they ever messed with you. And Laura was instantly up again and just like ready to go with the flow. David was so happy. David was down for a few days. It was with everything else, I think it's just piled, and he's now back.
So, oh, really? Okay. But do you know what happened? Like,
yeah, I know what happened. He was literally called me that morning and was like, hey, they're busting in people and bringing them in the hospitals. And he was telling me. So
he announced that on Facebook and they didn't like it.
Yeah, and it was right in the middle of that. But I will say this: they also have interviewed David Icke, and they just interviewed what's her name? Liz Crokin.
Yeah, she's great. I like Liz.
A couple days before, right? And they interviewed the lady about the vaccinations. What's her name?
Judy Mikovits.
Yeah, which I know you have too.
Mm-hmm.
So that
and I got a strike for that.
That may be a comment. Now look, you know what's crazy? Neither of them have ever got a strike, ever. No warnings. Now I've been in Facebook jail twice.
Yeah,
and I've been in a different Facebook jail from doing lives. I could post and go in groups, but I couldn't do lives. And then another time it was no posting, and another time it was you could do lives and do lives and posts, but you can't go in any group or post or
no, I've been completely in jail on my main YouTube now for 2 weeks, and I have something like, I think it's maybe it's 4 days left, and then I can use it again. But you see, it's so scary when I don't know, when you get up to 2 strikes, because it's 3 strikes, you're out. So it's not like 3 strikes and then they leave you going along. It's, if I hit the 3, they delete me. and they can delete I have gigantic, I mean, I guess, I have this gigantic channel with, 69 million viewers worldwide. It's taken 15 years to set this up, and 280, something like 284,000 subscribers. So you just can't get that back. In my alt channel, I have like 20,000 subscribers. It's just small. On my actual subscribers, paying subscribers is really small. Like, sorry to say. Nobody wants to pay, even though it's the price of a latte. So, this is a kind of thing where, I work all these years, and they could wipe out my work in like that. Yes, I can get it back up somewhere else. But you see, you can't get those people. Because people, when they subscribe, that they have their pattern, right? Whatever they do. Now, I wish that this will change, and maybe it will eventually if we can get a platform that is dependable. But at the moment, I don't want to name names, but I've tried to get on other channels, and they don't even let me in. I don't know why. Maybe they hate the alien thing.
What do you think is going to happen though? Because they were on the news, with being, questioned by Ted Cruz and everybody else. And yet the very next day, all these people are deplatformed. So it didn't seem like they really cared to be even questioned, because they're just like, what do you know anything? Have you heard anything that Trump's going to really lock down and like give these guys, or?
Well, okay, I'm not sure what you're asking. Is Trump going to be the disclosure president? Are you asking me that? Or are you asking me, is he going to do his indictments like, there's been promised now for eons?
Yeah, that would be nice too.
Because this is real now. See, so I think what happens is, John F. Kennedy Jr. was supposed to come forward in July. That was actually, I got that from so many sources, plus my own downloads. And that didn't happen. So what I see is happening, and this is understandable. When you're in a war, you have to be fast-footed, right? You have to be able to move with the flow. And when the situation says, that you need to change tactics, then you change tactics. So I see them changing tactics. They knew about Biden. They knew about the Biden family. Well, long before January, but definitely in January, they got the goods, laptop, according to information. And so they didn't release it until, a week ago or two, right? So they sat on it. So that was a decision. That was a strategic decision based on getting people to pay attention, not forget about it, and basically get wise to who Biden is and his son and the whole craziness. So that's what they did. It was a strategic, political decision. So a lot of the decisions I think that Trump has made, at least as far as his campaign and as far as his platform, have been all geared to winning the election. And now finally we get through this, which is basically in my world sort of an obstacle, and then we can get on with things, but we had to go through this ritual of this, voting situation. Now, if there's a surprise, if somehow, Trump didn't win, it's hard for me to even believe, but I guess it's possible that the dark side could come up with some kind of, huge steal on the election, and then who knows what'll happen, right? So,
well, Pelosi has already straight up said that they're not going to, I guess, give up or count. She said something about, we'll find out January 3rd. Well, it might not be January 3rd, but we'll definitely know by January 20th. And I was just like, you're already like straight up saying that we won't know till January 20th. Like, it's on video.
Yeah, that's completely crazy.
Right?
Okay. Yeah, because in essence, I don't know what happens. I hate to think that we're going to have to go through another 2 months of this suspended animation, which is in essence what it has felt like. Now, behind the scenes, I do appreciate, and this is where people like Gene Decode, both Charlies, have been trying to supposedly have been fed information. Now, whether the information they have been fed is completely accurate is another matter. But given that they have good intentions, they're supposedly relaying to the people, and especially anyone who is like a Q, an honor, that things that are sort of positive. That was the whole, I think, push. That at a certain point back in March and April, they decided, enough, even though they weren't going to trot out their indictments and trot out the evidence right in front of people's eyes. Unfortunately, they went for this sort of back channel, letting people know that things were going in a good direction. But I have to say that that's been a double-edged sword. And, it's unfortunately, it allowed the people that are against the Trump and team and people that are Trumpers, in essence, it allowed them to be skeptical, to say, no, it's not really happening because where is the evidence? Over and over again, these people are saying. So this is a problem. Now, there's evidence of a kind. If you search for it, you can kind of add 2 + 2 and so on. But there's nothing in the mainstream on your television. Nobody is really coming forward with the real goods. And unfortunately, as you were talking about before, and I have said, I think it was a misdirect to tell people, oh, everything's fine. They've done everything. That, Trump has taken over in all these countries, and, the Pope is deposed and the Queen is deposed. But then you have to look at the world situation. Has it gotten any better? No. So that tells you that they're not completely in control. So what I say to people is, okay, this is all good, but keep in mind that we're not going to get to the point of mutually assured destruction. So we don't want, and the aliens and the humans on both sides of the sort of track, they understand the principle. This is always understood, that it's like two mafia bosses. They divvy up what's going on planet Earth, and off, but they basically can't go out and shoot everybody. Like, if you think about the Godfather movies, they can't go, Al Capone can't go over and shoot everybody in the other gangs, right? Because then they'd come back and shoot everybody in their gang. And then pretty soon there'd be no humans left on the planet. So that's mutually assured destruction, and we can't go there. So understanding that, you have to look at the playing field and say, okay, what are we going to do? Because Trump is a dealer. He's like the ultimate dealer, but you can imagine that he's got a lot of other dealers with him, giving him advice, telling him, decide, this is a better way to go. This is going to be more strategic. I mean, it's amazing that he is as energetic as he is, because what he is actually dealing with is got so many layers. And there are layers to it, on the dark side, that are so disheartening that you can appreciate. Some of that shit is just like hard to believe. It's hard to deal with on it, even if, if you had to look at this stuff. Okay. I know about it. And, talking to William Tompkins, as he said to me, and then he basically died right after he said this to me, more or less. He said, it's far worse than you ever can imagine. Wow. And considering all the places I've been and all the stuff I've heard, that's saying a lot. Okay. Yeah. So when I heard that, I knew we were really in a bad place. And I just have to say that, what is sad to me is that it's taken this long for this story to come out. The reality is that we're not talking about, a lot of people like to think, oh, it just started a couple of years ago. It didn't. I'm sorry. It didn't just start a couple of years ago. And, not to take the vibration down here too far, but I just want to say that we're looking at a situation where Yes, it's awful right now, but can you imagine if it were to continue, how awful it really has been behind the scenes? So what you thought was a good life was basically riding on the shoulders of some really awful stuff. And nobody would want that. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So
well,
I go ahead.
they want to almost they have to say what they're going to do, and they use movies and all that through the Mockingbird project, because and it's not just giving you the picture and the idea and the visual so you know about it and they can technically get out of the karmic response from not telling and just doing it, because that's their way of, if you know it, then you are consenting in a way because you didn't do anything about it. But also it's a way to sort of like almost expect that that's the way it could go. It's like a little bit of a mind control kind of, not a little bit, it's brainwashing to, you see a bunch of these movies over and over again. So when the pandemic happens, you're just like, oh, this is just like those 52 movies that have already been out about all this. And there's several coming up even to this point where it's really bad. I mean, it gets worse. And it just seems like, think about this. If they had told us in March that you're going to be quarantined for a couple weeks and you're going to have to wear a mask and it's just a couple weeks, then that's one thing. And that's what they said. But if they had really said, we're going to lock you down for 3 years, you're going to have to wear a mask, you're going to lose your business, and all the people are going to lose their businesses, and all these things are going to happen, no one would sign up for that. And so they do it in these stages, kind of like that whole frog in the warm water, and they just slowly turn it up. And meanwhile, people would just sit back and go, oh, well, the government would, they would want our best interests, and I'm just going to listen to this. And they just hand over. And they're not even realizing that it's slowly leaking out. Like we are being fried frogs here in the situation. And the people who are awake, and the people who have followed you and your amazing interviews with Topkins and all these thousands of whistleblowers over the years. And we've kind of like been there, red pilled, enough. And to know when these pop up, we're like, oh crap, this is what they were talking about. And we start seeing it and we're just like, telling everybody, hey, everybody, don't jump off the cliff. And yet, like, there they go. They're jumping off the cliff. It's like another one gone. And it's and just now, I just found out yesterday or the day before that Fox News vice president was actually from the Biden team. And I don't know if you knew that. I could look up his name and figure it out. But I was like, are you even kidding me? So I had started noticing a lot more, even on the Fox side of, looking at media in general. Like used to, you could go to Fox and at least they would say both sides. You kind of get the, one or the other, but it starts getting a little bit weird. And then you see, I'm not going to name people, but there's people on there. I'm just like, I can't even listen to their voice. I'm like, I just know, like the vibration of it is just like, please, I don't know if it's you call it a trigger or whatever you want, but they start talking and I'm like, get off the video. I'm only watching news right now just because of the time that we're in. I don't watch news all year, but when it comes up to election stuff, I am keeping up with what's going on somewhat. And I will sometimes even go to other channels to see how they're twisting. Like, what is it that they're saying that's so counter or what they believe, and or to see just the Mockingbird, like same headline, same words, blah, 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 blah. I'm like, oh my God, this is what they're listening to. No wonder they're so crazy. And not to be us versus them, and God bless us all. We're just where we are in our place. But that's just part of it. The other thing I was going to say is, you mentioned the Queen and all of this and maybe capitulation and all these people that have done this all over. I haven't even seen anything about any of them. Like, Harry married and moved, and like, you don't see anything about them. You don't see anything about the prince, or, I mean, I haven't. Maybe I'm just like missing it, or maybe they're not putting it up because of the election.
Well, I don't know. No, I mean, there has been lots of information about Meghan and Harry, for one thing, because they're in California and there's certain press out there following them around, all that. But the Queen has actually gone to ground, as they say, and supposedly been under house arrest. And
I've heard that.
these things are at least have been substantiated behind the scenes to me, but and the same with the Pope. There's a lot of evidence that comes by way of various individuals sending stuff, but we don't have, again, we need the proof. We need the in your face statements and indictments showing they have been indicted, et cetera, et cetera. And then there's the whole thing. Do they have a substitute clone? Because a lot of people are out there saying, oh yeah, they are indicted or they're dead. In other words, they were just given some kind of, I don't know, military tribunal and then shot in the head for treason or for their crimes against humanity. Now, this is a huge problem, and what I see is that they're going to take the low-hanging fruit, but they're never going to get to the very, very top echelons, and they're not going to get, of course, they're not going to be able to get the reptilians to go down that road. So you have to look at what you're dealing with. Again, it's embedded in our population. It's embedded in the human genome at this point, these bloodlines. And so I don't hear anyone, and that goes across the board, and maybe because it's just a discussion that's too sophisticated for most people, but the bottom line is going to have to be dealt with. Because if you have the genetics that predispose you to drinking blood or to, eating humans, this is what you're going to have a predisposition to do. And this is where, Hunter Biden is the son of Biden. Okay. He's basically getting outed as a pedophile and so on, and crackhead and all of this other stuff. But where does it come from? It comes from his predisposition and the bloodline that he's part of. And so this is what's happening there. So like I say, shooting them all is not going to be the solution. There has to be a deeper understanding of how we are going to, as a planet, deal with these various races who have been trying to dominate us for centuries, as well as through our own people that they then recruit and have also infiltrated through their DNA. And that DNA game, the manipulation of human DNA, is ongoing. It didn't just, happen once and then they just left. It's like a constant interaction with humans on planet Earth. And that doesn't even include the AI side of that story, which most people are not prepared, it seems, in any way, shape, or form to even deal with intellectually, but it's going to have to also be dealt with. So we're in a situation where the good news is that all this stuff is coming to the fore. All this stuff is outed, right? It's all right in front of you. So at that point, we need to be able to understand that we now have to take the reins and make sure it's handled properly going forward on planet Earth, and that a bunch of people in a room don't just decide our futures and the futures of our children. And some of those children, by the way, again, will have more reptilian DNA than others. Some of the gray human hybrids, for example, especially the ones that were infiltrated down south of the border, they are what they are. We have to deal with this. This is a very sophisticated new world, new way of dealing with Earth. And apparently back in the days of Atlantis, this is the last time that humans and various ET races, inner Earth races, et cetera, we're dealing together on the surface. We're interacting. And back in those days, they also had to have their own they had a certain pecking order and so on and so forth. But there was a lot of inequality, and there were some injustices done back then as well, that we have a time now coming around again to right the wrongs that were done through history in these various ways. And you know, this gets into, I mean, Charlie Freak thinks Hitler's a good guy. I mean, you know, I'm sorry, he said that. Okay. He says that on his, you know, Patreon or whatever the hell. I mean, you're never going to sell me that. All right. But you could probably look at how Churchill and team and the Bushes, you know, the original Bushes, whose name escapes me, of the family name, you know, how they put him in place and how they used him in a certain way, and his own complete madness in certain ways. So they use these people like Saddam Hussein. Saddam Hussein became obsessed with the fact that he felt he was the reincarnation of Nebuchadnezzar, who was an Anunnaki. All right. And he wanted to open, the real reason they deposed him is because he was opening the gates in Iraq. So this is what we're dealing with. We're dealing with a level of awareness that I'm talking about every day, most of the time, and nobody wants to hear. I mean, nobody. I mean, literally, and I'm not going to name their names, but people that you follow, that people follow, that think are so high profile and so good, and they've got so much good information. Not one of them wants to talk about the subject as I'm talking about it here right now. You understand? So it's like we're dealing with children in a playground. They don't want to look at the real elephant in the room. They don't want to deal with these things. So they deal with a small little piece of it. Now the piece that they're dealing with is waking up to the fact that, you know, some humans basically want to use other humans as food. And, you know, completely, I mean, they've certainly known, look, parents have known that children have been victims of like bisexual predators forever. Some of those parents are guilty themselves, right? And some of them have been not protecting their children properly, so that they became, you know, victims. They went to Hollywood to become stars, and they didn't tell those little girls or boys what to expect at the other end of that spectrum. So they let them go. They didn't, you know, how many people are guilty of that? You know what I'm saying? Guilt by omission. They didn't tell their own children what the dangers were because they didn't want to talk about it. They didn't want to face it. But they knew, you know, they knew in the 1950s, they knew in the 1940s, you know, they knew about this stuff going on. You know, black magic has been around for a very long time. And with that, we're talking about Satanism. We're talking about all the very dark arts, and humans have been prey. Okay. So if you're prey on this planet, because that's the game you've entered, then the only way to have a fighting chance is to be fucking told you're prey. Okay. But of course they're not. Everyone's been lied to, and they buy the lies because it's more pleasant to basically think that. And it's not pleasant when somebody, you know, gets around you, dies because you know, they didn't get the warning. They didn't get warned at all, and so on. So yeah, it's a huge problem. I mean, I understand what's happening now, but I'm also thinking that it's still a limited, you know, hangout. It's still not really getting to the nitty gritty. And I understand, you know, Trump wanted to get reelected. Okay, fine. He needs 4 years, but then we need to see absolute, you know, this evidence coming forward. We need to see how things are going to be dealt with in a real way, and stop playing around. Right.
Yeah. Like get rid of let's do something with the arrests. Let's do something, you know, I think Hollywood is in deep trouble, to be honest. I mean, just with this lockdown and all this other stuff. I mean, in some ways, I'm not saying that it went away, and I'm not saying that the behaviors of these people suddenly go away because they've been locked up or their shows are all from home now. But I mean, Tom Hanks, it's been since I think May since he's made a tweet, and it's like he just moved to Greece, and like we never see him again or hear from him again, or I don't know. If you haven't seen Honey Boy with Shia LaBeouf, I watched that movie a few months ago, actually, when quarantine started. It came out, and I was just like, what? And he was one of the kids, like Corey and some of these others, Bieber and Miley Cyrus and all these others who kind of got in and saw, and it really messed people up. Britney Spears, lots of different actors that even went in with a Christian type background or what have you, and they're just like, whoa, and they kind of back out. I have a few friends that were literally could have been in all these things, but they were given these choices to trade on all these, things, and they were just like, whoa, we didn't know it was like that, and they kind of like skedaddle. And they've shared a few of the real deal things, but they don't talk about this like out loud to most people, because most people just would not even believe how bad it is. When David Rodriguez, who I think you're interviewing this week, and I just love him, he's a really good friend. When he came out and did his video, I think people were just shocked, that here's someone who's has all these connections and was just being authentically real and talking about the truth about what he really knew and saw and had been, seen or heard about and, been in the middle of it. And he's saying it out loud, like you're saying. Some people just don't say it out loud. And then there's other people who are hopefully like ourselves, who are just like, okay, you know what? We're truthers. We're getting the truth out. Whatever it is that we got to talk about. If we don't talk about it and people aren't aware of it, then whether Trump gets in and we have 4 years or not, we have to be somewhat a part of even our cities and our states and our communities, let alone a huge nation. But it starts with us as individuals. We're going and doing our own inner work and our inside job, which I know you talk a lot about with whole meditation and all that. But as we move from the inside out, and we can affect so many people, but it also goes back to that whole God and action thing. And instead of just waiting for Santa Claus or Jesus or the aliens to come save us, or, it's like, I get that. I hear people all the time where I'll post something or I'll say something and the comments will be like, well, we're praying that Jesus will come back soon. Or, and I love Jesus. Jesus is freaking rock star. And who wouldn't want to be like him? But also, like, okay, but he's not here right now. And, God's in your DNA and mine. And we got source power. And let's activate and actually do something as if God was working through us, because that's why we're sent to do stuff here anyway. It's actually be a vessel of something positive and service and love and truth, instead of just waiting for another person to come do it for us. And it's just that whole kind of I don't know if it's lazy or entitlement or just bored or not want to get involved. Maybe it's fear, or maybe people just forgot what freedom looks like when you don't have it. Because if you go back just a generation or two, my great-grandfather, he served, my grandfather served, my father served, my son is a ranger. I've been overseas. You've been overseas. I've been on the East Berlin side before the wall came down. I've been in third world countries all over. I've been in 44 countries. And I tell you, when I come home, I freaking kiss the ground, because we have such a great country. Even though that we got all the issues that we got, oh my God, you have no idea. Some people just literally don't have a clue how it could be if we were living in just utter poverty, where feces and poop and whatever is all in the streets, and there's no food and there's no anything, there's no water, and people are rioting and crazy, and there's prostitutes everywhere. Not that I live under a rock and there's nothing like that here, but we get to go shopping and walk around. Pre whatever virus, this situation, even that in itself, I think people aren't even standing up for that. Our governor here actually put an unconstitutional mandate on the state where I live right now. And it was overturned by the House 2 weeks ago. It was overturned by the House, and no news media would even want to put it on. And the governor did get on the news and basically said, it doesn't matter if it was overturned, it's still in. And like, you would think, even though many people that I work with in government here have been on and put it, I mean, one guy owns a newspaper. He's got 28 years as being a House representative. He's got 3 newspapers. He put it all over the newspapers that he could. People are meeting. It's all over social media that we've been open, and like, people are still wearing masks. It's like,
okay. So what state are you in?
I'm in Louisiana, and we're open now.
Really?
And
wow.
people are
Congrats.
still, and you get to, if you still want to wear a mask. But my point is, people are being told that we're
Incredible.
free in our restaurants and that we don't have to wear a mask. And they're still choosing to wear masks. Some people, not everybody.
Yeah, well, hey, that's what they want to do. They want to stifle themselves. That, you know, that's fine. They want to lower their power. That's their choice. They're going to believe these, you know, these crazies who they chose to be their so-called leaders, and that's their daddy complex, and they need to get over that. But it could take a few lifetimes. I mean, that's the reality of it. Let me just say that David Rodriguez I'm having a panel discussion tomorrow, but he's not going to make it. Okay. So he had other plans, I guess, or something. But I also want to say that maybe he'll make it sometime because he has an open invitation now. But this is the thing that I encounter and happens all the time, that a lot of these people will not come on my channel. And you know why they won't come on my channel? Because they're afraid of the alien thing. They don't want to be stigmatized by being in association with the alien thing. Okay. So now I'm going to have Sean Stone and Laura Eisenhower and one more person. I think her name is Angela Love. I think I might be getting her name right. I hate Laura to get someone's. No, she really, I think I can look it up and get it right. But all I'm saying, you know, I just kind of met her, but she, you know, she's a lovely person, but and she's helping organize this sort of, this roundtable. It's Friday, where it's happening Friday. Anyway, I'll get the right information out there. But the bottom line is, I'm saying is that it's very difficult nowadays to get people to come online together. And a lot of people don't know this, but a lot of people don't want to talk to other people, you know, in a roundtable. They refuse to. So they are so, you know, like full of themselves or whatever you want to call it. And they're afraid. They're afraid they'll get outed. They're afraid they're going to have a disagreement. God forbid people should disagree online, you know. And I'm much more open to this kind of thing than most people, because I don't know why, actually, because I just think that we should just be open and honest. You know, if you have a disagreement, I don't care if people come on my show and disagree with me. That's fine. But doesn't mean I'm not going to disagree with them.
It's fun to watch.
It's, you know, it's good. It's good entertainment, but it's also, it can be eye-opening to hear both sides in one place. And so it's like people are so busy wanting to only show certain sides of themselves and to package things in a certain way. And the whole ufology, whatever, you know, a lot of people are just, they're not very, they're not willing to tussle. They're not willing to get it out there. They're not willing to really do anything other than agree with each other nonstop, which, you know, that just gets a little bit boring, to say the least. I mean, which goes to show you that, think about heaven on earth with nothing else to do but agree with everybody. Could be really boring life. So we have yin and yang, okay? We have yin and yang in the universe.
Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
Just, you know, just saying, I mean, this is what it's all about. It's about building you up to the next level, to having, you know, the light and the dark, and to being able to transcend both and to bring yourself into a state of oneness and transcendence. So if you don't have the challenge, you're not going to make it. You're not going to get there. All right. So we're all creators, and what they want to stifle also by isolating us, by shutting down small businesses. Okay, this is the agenda. The so-called economic reset is all about getting rid of small businesses, you know, individuals, making your own living. You're going to just sit in a house. You're going to draw a paycheck, and you're going to, pretty soon you won't even be sitting in the house. You'll be sitting in their FEMA camp or whatever it is. And so they're taking away your right to be creative, and they're narrowing your playing field. They just want to keep you, they don't want you to travel, right? So all these areas where we can be endlessly creative and endlessly sharing the bounty of the universe and endlessly, educating ourselves, etc. What they want to do is shut it down more and more and more. And then, of course, they're going to throw in the AI and the nano that's going to increase that, sort of deaden you. So you're just like a vegetable, basically. And your state, your nanny state, will take care of you. Is this what you want? And thank God, even Trump, even though he's running for election, at least he has the guts to say this is nonsense. This is not what we want. All right. Yeah. But I can also tell you that, I'm sorry to just go on, but when I get onto the subjects, some of them, I just get into a state. I want to say that, free energy is there. It's out here. Okay. But they're terrified to let humans know about it. And so they've been killing the free energy inventors and activists. They've been locking them down. They've been ruining their lives. They've been, totally taking control of that whole sector. And then on top of it, Trump is talking. And I have to say, he has to talk in this way because otherwise he would lose his audience totally, if he was to talk like me. But the bottom line is that we don't need fossil fuels. Okay. We shouldn't be using fossil fuels. Hello. So even Trump is going to Pennsylvania. He's saying, yes, we want coal and we want fossil fuels. So you guys will have jobs. You don't want to fucking work in a coal mine. I mean, get a grip on reality. This is a horrible thing to do. Okay. It's like being a rat underground. I mean, nobody wants that. All right. So they're going to preserve that right for you, and you got to kind of understand that we're working with a lot of sort of nuances. So what do you want to preserve? You want to preserve the right to have to go to work from 8 in the morning to 5 at night, sit in traffic for hours and hours, come home, have just enough, energy to eat dinner, have a beer and watch TV and go to sleep. Is that what you want? We don't want to fight for that either. So it's like, this is a moving target. There's a lot to it. And to understand that, yes, he has to talk in these terms because that's all these people understand. All right. You can't roll out everything all at once. I get it. But nonetheless, I like to give my other fellow humans credit for having more than half a brain. All right. And so nobody thinks it's wonderful to work from 8 to 5 with this drone life either. Okay. So this is bullshit as well. We are creators. And if this clearing the playing field, bringing free energy, freeing us to be the creators we can be, and who knows what might happen, but in the end, get rid of the leaders. Nobody needs leaders. Okay. It's just meaningless. But whatever, that's just me. Go ahead.
So just two things I'm going to say, and then we got to wrap. Yes, with the energy situation, I have heard him say that over again, and I've watched the people react because I'm in the South, and everything is about oil here and in Texas, and of course people are just freaking out. And also, as he's saying that, I'm actually already knowing that he's been trying to declass all of the Tesla stuff, which would be free energy, and it's just dumb, because. Not dumb because of Trump, but so here's Biden saying it and he gets all this shit about it, but it's just because he is not presenting it any other way, or he's not explaining it, or maybe he's not having the solution to it. Of course, if and when this comes out, which I think will be soon, with Trump, then there's also going to be free electricity and free gas, and there'll be other replicators and med beds and all the other things that have been suppressed and hidden. And there's going to be, we can just have something, microwaves have a lot of radiation, but the replicators look similar to that, where you just like punch in something and it like makes it for you. You don't need freaking Amazon anymore to bring shit to you, because you just make it right there in your house and you have it, and food and whatever. I mean, imagine like the Jetsons on crack. I mean, the stuff, think about it. The Jetsons was like in my little kid age, and we're not seeing a whole lot of changes in anything really, because this has all been so suppressed for so long, and there will be a time when this does come out. But when it does come out, there's going to be a better presentation than what Biden could come up with. And it won't be like, we're giving you this and it's going to put everyone at risk for your job, and this is, it's going to be presented, and there'll be backup of things of like, but this is going to happen too. So you won't need to worry about money for a job, because you'll have these things, and you'll have your health, forget insurance and Biden care and all of that, when we have med beds and we have all these amazing technologies that really have been around since the 40s. Which, like you said, people don't want to talk about, but it's all reverse engineered from UFOs that have landed. And then even the cell phone and transmitters and all of this stuff has been just from that. But people don't say that out loud, but that's the truth. So, and then the last thing I want to say is, going back to, people don't want to talk about this, and the whole David Rodriguez thing. For the record, David actually does talk about UFOs and aliens and believes in it. So we're not talking about him when we were saying, whenever we were talking about this earlier. I know that in general, I run into that where people are like, hey, I'll be in your show, but we're not going to talk about this, are we? And I'm like, you just talk about whatever you want to talk about. I have people who have lots of different ideas, and definitely I'll bring in people that I don't agree with on purpose. And I know that my people won't necessarily agree with on purpose, but because, like you said, if we're not presented with a lot of different things, and we don't have the courage to even look at what people are saying, believing, participating in, living, experiencing, then how do we ever grow and expand as human beings, if whatever human beings, but as a consciousness? How do we expand in love? How do we expand as humanity if we're not even willing to have the courage to listen to other people and participate in what they're dealing with or what their perspective is? And everything's about perspective. I mean, and belief system, or be alive in what we're actually, and we've all had these like filters, because this experience happened or this experience happened. And then you start to just see things through that instead of actually how it really is. And I think that part of what you and I do, and you've been doing it for years, and I am so like inspired by you. You're my hero. Like I'm gonna cry, but you're just amazing that you've been doing this for so long, and you still get up and do it. And with everything that you are, and all the things you've seen and gone through, and the people that you've met, and it's not always easy, and yet you're just like, you wouldn't do anything different. You're like, this is who I am, and this is what I'm doing. And if you don't like it, and I just love your attitude, and you're spunk, and you just who you are as a human. I just love and resonate with you so much, and just so thankful that you have had the courage all these years to inspire people like me to get out and go, well, what can I do? And to start talking about things that I was scared to talk about. And I'm like, you know what? Get over it. Like, just I had to get over myself and go like, you know what? These things happened to me. I was a part of some serious stuff as a kid, and still am at times. And, you've interviewed me on those things, but you're one of the first people that I actually went out and said stuff. You and Mary Rodwell and some others, Peter Slattery. I mean, I was just like, oh, well, what do I got to lose? I'm just, Well,
whatever. I mean, I was encouraged by all the whistleblowers that I met all through the years doing the same thing. I mean, we gave them a platform and they talked, okay? And they had courage, and that inspired me as well. So I was constantly inspired by the people that I was dealing with. And that was, because I spent many years on planet Earth not revealing actually who I really was. And my book, Rebel Gene, is all about more about me, because I don't tend to talk a lot about myself. But, that hasn't been my mission per se. But I have to say that I've been inspired by you as well, because, I'm reading your book and you've got great stuff in there. And, I have to say that every time I meet a person who is, we're mirrors for each other. So they mirror back to me the courage. And that just inspires me every day to get up again and the next day and do more, because I get it back. It comes back, and it comes back fourfold, or whatever you want to say. So I have to say it's almost coming full circle, our discussion here, because I started by saying, share your healthiness, share your power, share what you have to give, and share it with everybody all day, everywhere. And let's not allow them to sequester us, to keep us separated, can you imagine that there are people out there that aren't hugging their children because they're worried they're carriers? This is nonsense. This is absolutely the most diabolical thing to put a wedge in between, humans that love each other. And so this is so important. I just can't stress it enough, to see beyond the controllers, to understand their motivations, to know why they've told you this, what they're trying to achieve. Okay. This is very important. So anyway, thank you for wanting to do this show today. I hope we're inspiring people a little bit to continue to debunk the system, and to actually try to right the wrongs that are actually being perpetrated on humanity right now, because that's happening in spades, with or without Trump. So let's, everyone pick up your own piece of that, and own it, and understand that, what do you want your children to remember you by? Someone who cowers in the dark in your house with some mask on because, you want to go out riding your bike because, the elements, there's not another human being for miles, and you're wearing a mask. Come on, wake the fuck up. Sorry to swear, whatever, you want to bleep it out. But, this is the reality, let's get real here. There's nothing intelligent about that.
Yes, it is a little strange to see people driving around even in their cars all alone. But anyway, I have to be careful not to get in judgment, because I don't want to play, fit into their judgment baiting.
Yeah, but we got to evaluate the situation. You got to call a spade and wake people up, because there are a lot of people walking in the dark. And if no one, says, hey, turn a light on, because they're afraid of being in judgment, right?
Yes.
So leave them in the dark. Is that your answer?
Yeah. No, that's why we're out doing 3 and 4 interviews a day, and, just trucking along, doing our best, especially with this election tomorrow. I hope all of you will go out and, just like Kerry's saying, do the inner work, meditate, speak up, be brave, live brave, look for truth, find truth, do your research. It's out there. There's tons of information out there. There are people who are spreading the truth. Go find them. They'll find you.
Share your own truth.
Yes. Yes.
This is the challenge. So thank you again. Take care, and lots of love. And thanks everyone for watching. And let's hope for a beautiful tomorrow.
Yes. The last thing I'm going to say is, please go to her website, projectcamelot.org and .com, or all the things, just to make sure you get
projectcamelot.tv, projectcamelotportal.com, and projectcamelot.org. Thank you.
Get her book, get her book, get her book, get her book, get her book.
And get your book. Get her.
Yes. And then goes the Science of Miracles. I wish I had yours to hold up, but it's next to my nightstand because I read it. I'm still reading it. And I told people in the last interview, I'll say it again, I'm a fast reader. I will read 6, 7 books at a time, be finished, move on. With hers, I'm like bits of pieces, cry, get emotional. There's something going on here. I've not pinpointed. I've got some reasons why, but anyway, read her book, get her book, connect with her on all the social media. You can find me at swiftfire.org. Please get on my newsletter because I don't know. I'd like to be able to not be censored. And also, this is what's happening to other people. So I'm claiming that only God touches me, only God sees me, only God hears me, and that I will be sovereign. And also, please take action. Go swiftfire.org, swiftfire.org. I'm on YouTube, Dr. Sharnael, Facebook, Dr. Sharnael, of course, YouTube, and Twitter. I said that twice. And I have a couple, I do have David Rodriguez tomorrow that I'm interviewing, and Jason Q, who I think most of you would find really interesting too. And they're both amazing. So love you guys so much. Take care, and we will talk to you guys soon. All right. Thanks for being with us tonight and hanging out. All right. Bye-bye.
Okay. Bye-bye.